Maya liked quiet mornings. She woke before her alarm, opened the window a little, and let the soft air of the city move through her small apartment. The street below was not loud at this hour. She brewed tea, set 2 slices of bread to toast, and watered a basil plant that refused to give up, even on days when she forgot it. She took her time, because taking her time felt like a new kind of strength. Nothing in her life had to be rushed anymore. She had rebuilt her life piece by piece after a hard breakup. She did not tell that story to many people. When she did, she used careful words. It ended badly. I felt controlled. I left. Those simple lines carried months of small decisions: saving money, packing in the dark, finding a safer place, changing her number, leaving old cafes that used to feel friendly but now felt like doors that would not close. She had promised herself one thing: life would be calm again. Her apartment helped. It was not big, but it felt like a room that understood her. A small desk faced the window. A corkboard held color swatches and sketches from work. On the shelf, there was a photo of her parents smiling near the sea. She had started a little ritual. Every morning, she carried her tea to the balcony, breathed in, and looked at the roofs and trees. She counted to 5 on each breath. She thanked the day for being simple. She worked at a design studio with a kind team and small clients. They made logos for bakeries and menus for local diners. They picked paint colors for a preschool and a clinic waiting room. Maya liked how the work touched real people. When a client smiled at a friendly font or a soft shade of blue, she felt useful. Lila, her closest co-worker, often said, "We decorate everyday courage." Maya liked that sentence so much she pinned it above her desk. Her new boyfriend, Ethan, fit into this calm like a cushion placed just right. He did not push. He asked how her day was and waited for her answer. He was warm, a little quiet, steady in his speech. He did not share much about his job. He said it kept him busy and made him travel sometimes, but he always told her his schedule, and he was always on time. His respect felt like a gentle light in a room that had too many shadows before. On Tuesday night, while they cooked pasta in her tiny kitchen, she told him more about the past. She kept her voice even and simple. He was different in the beginning, she said. Then he wanted to choose my clothes. Then my friends. He read my messages. I felt small. Ethan did not interrupt. He stirred the sauce and let her choose how far to go. When she finished, he said, "I hear you. You did the brave thing. You're safe now." She felt the words settle in her chest like a blanket pulled up to the chin. Since the move, she had learned small habits that made her feel steady. She charged her phone before bed. She locked the door, then checked it once more. She kept a spare key with Lila. She took a different route home once a week, not because she had to, but because it reminded her she could make choices. At first, these habits had felt like fear. Now, they felt like care. She was caring for the person she had become. Wednesday morning brought a small ripple. As Maya crossed the lobby with her tote bag, her neighbor Mr. Han called out, "Morning." He held a newspaper in one hand, a bag of oranges in the other. "There's been a car outside late the last 2 nights," he added, "not urgent, just casual talk. Dark sedan. Maybe visiting someone? I couldn't see." Maya smiled and said, "Probably someone new." Inside, she noticed a thin thread of worry, like a thread that could pull a sleeve loose if tugged. She cut the thread with a breath and kept moving. She did not want to give that thought too much space, but she honored it enough to take care. She sent Ethan a short message: "Neighbor mentioned a car parked late, dark sedan. Might be nothing, just sharing." He replied almost at once, "Thanks for telling me. I'll pick you up after work this week. We can grab dinner nearby." The message carried no drama, only presence. She felt the invisible floor under her feet grow a little thicker. At the studio, the day was full and bright. A bakery owner brought warm samples for a menu test. The team argued kindly about whether the cinnamon roll looked happier in a round plate or a square one. Maya drew a simple, cheerful pastry icon that made everyone laugh: 2 dots for eyes, a little swirl of icing like a tiny hat. That small laugh loosened something inside her. She was not just someone who survived. She was someone who created. During lunch, Lila scanned the street through the big window. City people park like puzzle pieces, she joked, pointing at a car that had taken 2 spaces. Maya laughed and told her about the neighbor's comment. Lila's face grew thoughtful but not alarmed. Let's walk out together tonight, she said. I'll carry the heavy portfolio and look very strong. She struck a silly pose. They both laughed again, and in that laugh, a door in Maya's chest opened and let fresh air in. As the afternoon slowed, Maya caught her reflection in the studio's glass door. She looked different than a year ago. Her shoulders were not tight at her ears. Her eyes had more light. She had given herself permission to wear bright colors again: soft green, light gold, a coral scarf that her mother had sent in the mail with a note, for the new chapter. She took a picture and sent it to her mother and to Ethan. Ethan replied with a single star emoji, and it was enough. When the sun dipped, the studio lights warmed the room. Lila and Maya packed up. They shut down computers, stacked sample books, checked the door. Outside, the street was honest and ordinary: a bus sighed at the curb, a courier locked a bike, a pair of teens shared earphones and nodded to a song only they could hear. Ordinary life felt like a song too, and Maya wanted to keep listening. Ethan texted, 2 blocks away. He liked to park where he could watch the street for a minute, then step into view without hurry. Maya found this habit thoughtful. She did not know where he learned it, but she could feel the care behind it. While waiting, she and Lila stood near the window display filled with textures and paint samples. They talked about weekend plans. Lila wanted to try a pottery class. Come with me, she said. We can make lopsided cups and pretend they're modern. Maya said yes before doubt could raise its hand. On the sidewalk, a dark sedan rolled past and paused at the corner. It was just a car in traffic, nothing more. Yet the pause made Maya notice the pattern from Mr. Hand's remark. She did not freeze. She did not tell a big story in her head. She marked the detail and breathed. Ethan's car turned onto the street a moment later. He parked, got out, and waved. His presence cut through the little cloud in her mind like sun through mist. Ready? He asked, taking the portfolio from her. Hungry, she said, and they smiled. Lila peered at Ethan over the portfolio. You're the strong one tonight, she said. Guard the cinnamon roll artist. Ethan grinned. On it. They said goodbye to Lila, promised a text to confirm everyone got home fine, and started down the block. As they walked, Ethan asked gentle questions. How was the client? Did the preschool like the animal icons? Maya answered and then told him about the pottery plan. That's a good plan, he said. Hands in clay are medicine. She laughed. Is that a quote from a wise book? He shrugged. From a wise grandmother. She made vases. She said clay listens when people don't. Maya thought about that. Maybe that was why shaping something soft and simple felt so comforting now. They chose a small diner with bright booths and a neon sign that always buzzed. The server knew Maya and brought extra napkins without being asked. They ordered sandwiches and split a bowl of soup. While they ate, they watched the street through the window. People carried bags, talked on phones, hurried, lingered, lived. The city was not a threat. It was a living thing that could hold her. At one point, Ethan's eyes flicked to a passing car. He noticed things easily, in a way most people did not. It was not jumpy. It was trained calm. He did not name what he saw, but he placed it in a quiet corner of his mind. He could tell Maya was getting stronger every week, and he would not crowd that strength with worry. He would simply be present, like a good frame around a picture supporting, not stealing attention. After dinner, they drove back to her building. Ethan parked, then walked her to the door. Mr. Han was in the lobby with his bag of oranges again. "Take two," he insisted, handing them over like medals. They chatted about the weather. An elevator bell sounded. A young couple stepped out, laughing about a movie. It was an ordinary moment. Maya smiled at how ordinary it was. Upstairs, she set the oranges in a small bowl and texted Lila, "Home safe." "You?" Lila replied with a thumbs up and a picture of her cat lying like a melted blanket. Maya laughed again. She turned to Ethan. "Thank you for dinner," she said. "Thank you for the calm." He touched her arm lightly. "You made the calm," he said. "I just showed up to witness it." She felt seen in the best way. Before bed, they reviewed the week in simple, practical steps. Ethan would pick her up after work the next few days. She would keep her normal routines and note anything that felt off. Nothing dramatic. Only notice and share. She liked that plan. It was strong but soft, like a sweater on a cool morning. She did not want fear to choose her clothes, her routes, or her thoughts anymore. She wanted wisdom to choose, and kindness to carry her choices. When Ethan left, she cleaned the kitchen, washed 2 plates, and wiped the counter. She set out her clothes for morning: slate blue pants, a soft white shirt, the coral scarf. She opened the window and listened to the night air. Somewhere, a radio played an old love song. A bus sighed again. The city held a million stories at once, but in her apartment, she could hold just one, the one she was living now. In bed, she read 3 pages of a gentle book and turned off the lamp. Sleep did not rush in, it arrived like a friend who knocks softly. As she drifted, she remembered something her father once said: "New habits are like stepping stones. You may feel water all around, but the stones will hold." She pictured a path of flat stones across a river. She stepped from one to the next in her mind: tea, breath, work, laughter, dinner, truth. The path made sense. On Thursday morning, she woke with the same calm she had been practicing. She checked the lock once, then smiled at herself for not checking twice. She made tea, watered the basil, and sent a morning message to Ethan: "Good morning. See you after work." She added a green leaf emoji for the basil. He replied with a cup emoji and the words, "Proud of you." She held the phone and let those words settle. Outside, the street was already awake. Delivery trucks rumbled. A kid in a backpack ran to catch a school bus. A dog pulled its person toward a tree with great purpose. Maya felt part of it all again, not hiding, not shrinking, but moving with the city's honest rhythm. She turned her face toward the day and walked. She did not know that the week would test the quiet she had built. She did not know which hour would ask her to stand taller than before. But she had something strong now: routines that held her, people who listened, and a voice inside that was not afraid of its own sound. She had learned to speak simply and stand where her feet were. And if anything tried to shake that ground, she had a plan: notice, share, choose calm, keep breathing, keep moving toward the good. The day moved like a steady river. Maya answered emails, adjusted colors for a preschool mural, and finalized a cheerful menu layout for the bakery. The studio smelled faintly of paper, coffee, and the lemon cleaner the owner liked to use. Lila hummed while she worked, stopping every now and then to ask, round corners or square, and to show Maya a new idea. They shared easy jokes, the kind that turn a workday into something soft and friendly. Maya kept her mind on the present. She did not chase old worries. When a small thought about the dark sedan tried to start a story in her head, She breathed and let it go. She had a plan, and she had people who cared. Around 3 in the afternoon, the bakery owner stopped by with a small box of test pastries. "Fuel for artists," he said with a smile. Maya and Lila split a flaky roll and gave a thumbs up to the cinnamon. They took a quick photo of the pastry icon Maya had drawn and sent it to him for his new sticker. He wrote back, "Perfect." These tiny wins made the hours feel bright. When she looked at the clock again, it was almost 5. The sky outside the big front window turned a soft gold. Car lights winked on. The studio's glow felt warm and safe. Maya texted Ethan, "We're closing soon. I'll be at the door with Lila." He answered at once, "On my way." 2 blocks out. This simple exchange gave her a quiet lift. She gathered sample books, cleaned her desk, and pinned a new note above it: "Kind work, clear mind." Lila shut down the printer and stacked paper trays. They moved in a smooth routine the team had practiced many times. Keys, lights, door. Everything about closing felt calm. Then came the small shift that changes the air in a room. As Maya and Lila stepped toward the glass door, the street looked ordinary, but a figure leaned against the brick wall near the alley, half in shadow. At first, Maya's mind did not match the figure to a name. It was just a person, hands in pockets, head bent as if looking at the ground. The door chimed as Lila opened it. The figure lifted his head. The light found his face. Maya felt her breath change. Daniel. The name moved through her like a cold draft under a door. He wore plain clothes, not a uniform: dark jacket, faded jeans, a cap pulled low. His face looked older, more tired at the edges. His eyes found her in a quick, sharp way that felt too familiar. He stepped forward a single pace and spoke her name in a tone that was too soft for a busy street. He said it like a secret, and that made it feel unsafe. Lila's hand stayed on the door. She took in the scene in one long look without making a show of it. "I forgot my water bottle," she said in a light voice. "1 second." She slipped back inside and, in the same motion, lifted her phone. She did not leave Maya alone. She stood just behind the glass, visible, watching, ready. Through the glass and the window behind it, Lila could also see the street in both directions. She wasn't dramatic. She was simply present. Maya stood on the top step, keeping a few feet of space between herself and Daniel. She kept her voice steady and simple. "What do you want, Daniel?" She did not ask this with anger or fear. She asked as a person who owned her space and time. She felt the ground under her shoes. She kept her chin level. She knew how to breathe. Daniel's eyes flashed with something that looked like a mix of worry and blame. "You vanished," he said. "You blocked me. You changed everything. You didn't even let me explain." He shifted on his feet and forced a smile that did not reach his eyes. "I'm not here for trouble. I just want to talk." His voice tried to make the word talk sound harmless. But his shoulders were tight, and his jaw worked like he was chewing on a hard thought. "I don't want to talk," Maya said, clear and calm. "Please leave." She added the word please because she liked how it felt to be polite even under pressure. It made her feel like herself. The word did not change his face. He took one more step and looked past her into the studio. "You changed your number. You moved. You told people lies about me." For a second, his voice rose, then dropped again as if he remembered the street had ears. "I would have taken care of you," he added, softer, and that word taken made Maya feel the old shrinking feeling at the edges. She did not let it in. "Step back," she said. "Please leave." She did not argue with his story. She did not try to fix his view. She only held her boundary like a person holding a door closed with both hands. She did not have to explain herself to the past. Behind the glass, Lila pretended to fuss with a plant while her phone stayed by her cheek. Her voice was low and even. "Hi," she said to the person on the line, who was Ethan. "It's Lila. We have a situation outside the studio." "Yes, he's here. He's talking to her now. We're out front." "No, not loud yet. Please come." She ended the call and sent a quick text with their exact location, though Ethan knew it well. She also typed the make and color of the car she had seen idling down the block and a note about the man's cap. Lila was no expert, but she knew details help. On the sidewalk, a couple walking a small dog slowed their pace. A courier rolled a cart of boxes to the building next door and glanced over. The city was doing what cities do: half the people mind their business, half the people notice and stay close enough to help. The presence of others changed the air. It did not remove the tension, but it put it in a larger space. Daniel's voice shifted again, quick and uneven. "Is he putting you up to this?" he asked, meaning Ethan. "Did he tell you to cut me out?" He was searching for a hook. If he could place the blame on someone else, maybe he could pull the conversation to where he controlled it. He picked at the cap brim with 2 fingers, then let his hand slide to the line of his jacket as if checking the edge of a pocket out of habit. Maya saw the motion and felt her heart push harder against her ribs. "Please leave," she repeated, steady as a metronome. "I don't want this conversation." She glanced once at the street behind Daniel, keeping her face calm. Then she did something simple and wise: she moved 1 step sideways toward the studio door and the pool of light on the sidewalk. She did not rush. She did not run. She shifted her position to a place with more witnesses and a clearer path back inside. Every small choice mattered. He noticed the movement and gave a short, humorless laugh. "Don't do that," he said quietly. "We're just talking." His eyes darted toward her hand. She had her phone in it. Her thumb hovered near the screen. She was not making a show of calling anyone. She was simply ready. The readiness was its own kind of strength. A car turned onto the block. Headlights brushed the storefronts and stopped near the corner. Ethan's car. He did not blast in or call out. He parked with care and stepped out, closing the door with the same calm he had shown at 100 small moments before. He took in the picture the way a careful person takes in a room before speaking: where people stood, what their hands were doing, how the light fell. He kept his hands visible, by his sides, palms soft. "Maya," he said in a normal voice, as if he were arriving for dinner, not walking into tension. She looked at him and felt the air around her body settle. He had that effect: he did not take her power, he reminded her of it. He glanced at Daniel and gave a small nod, respectful but firm. "Evening," he said. "Let's give each other some space." Daniel's eyes moved fast between Ethan and Maya, as if trying to find a line that would pull one of them closer to him. "Who are you to tell me about space?" he asked. The words had a sharp edge, but there was also a tremor under them. He was not as sure as he wanted to be. "She vanished," he added, talking over his own doubt. "She made me the problem." Ethan did not answer the accusation. He spoke short, clear sentences like stepping stones in a shallow stream. "We're not doing this here," he said. "Step back from her. Keep your hands where we can see them." He did not shout. He did not threaten. He gave instructions as if safety had a simple recipe. His voice was steady in a way that slows down other voices. Maya saw Daniel's jaw tighten. He lifted his chin and tried to recover control by belittling Ethan. "You think you're in charge? You don't even know me." He half smiled at Maya as if to invite her to join in the dismissal. "He's trying to play hero," he said. But his eyes betrayed something like surprise. He had not expected Ethan to be this calm or this precise. Lila opened the door 2 inches and stood in the gap with keys in her hand. "Maya," she said, We can step inside and lock up. Ethan's right there. Her voice was everyday and kind. Not a big alarm. Just a door, a choice, a path. Maya did not rush. She took one step toward the door, keeping her eyes on Daniel's shoulders and hands. Ethan shifted a half step sideways so he would be between them if needed. He did not reach for Maya. He let her move herself. That mattered. She felt respected, not managed. Daniel's hand brushed the side of his jacket again. It might have been a nervous habit. It might have been something else. Ethan's focus narrowed. He did not miss small movements. He had trained his body to notice without flinching. Hands visible, he said again, same calm tone. We can keep this simple. The street carried the sounds of a bus pulling away, a bike bell, a distant car horn. These ordinary noises made a gentle contrast to the tension near the studio door. The couple with the dog stood farther down the sidewalk now, talking quietly and pretending to give space, but they were watching. The courier had finished his delivery and was tapping on his phone near the curb. People were present. Presence often keeps small moments from becoming large ones. Daniel seemed to feel the circle of eyes growing. His face shifted, frustration first, then something like fear, then pride waking up to guard him. You both think you won, he said in a voice that tried to cut. But the cut did not land. Maya did not flinch. Ethan did not argue. The words fell between them and dissolved like salt in water. Maya made a choice. She spoke one sentence that was true and strong. I am not coming back to any conversation with you, she said. Please leave me alone. The words were plain, but they carried the weight of many mornings and many breaths. She did not explain her reasons. She did not ask for permission to be done. She named a boundary. For a second, Daniel looked like he might say something soft again, an apology, a plea. But then his pride tugged hard on the line, and the softness snapped. He glanced at Ethan's face, searching for a sign of weakness. He did not find one. Ethan's expression was not hard, but it was unmovable. Daniel's eyes slid toward the corner where his car idled in the shadow. Then, as if pulled by two ropes at once, he hesitated. Ethan saw the hesitation and used it. This is a good moment to walk away, he said. You can make a good choice here. He was not mocking or scolding. He was stating a simple fact about time: some moments are doors. You can choose which side to be on. A quiet stretched. Lila held the door. Maya stood ready to step inside. The dog down the block sneezed, and the couple laughed softly. The city kept breathing. Daniel rubbed the line of his jaw, then dropped his hand, then lifted it again. His shoulders loosened a fraction. Fine, he said at last, but the word came out like a stone. He took a small step back. Maya felt a small release in her chest, like a knot loosening one loop. She did not look away from him, but she did not stare him down either. She kept her own face calm. She placed one foot over the studio threshold. She felt Lila's steady presence at her shoulder. She felt Ethan's quiet watchfulness like a guardrail she could trust. Daniel shifted his weight, and for a breath-long moment, the air tensed again. His eyes flashed toward his jacket, and his fingers twitched near the edge of the fabric. It could have been nothing. It could have been something. Ethan's body read it as risk. Without changing the volume of his voice, he sharpened the content: keep your hands up where we can see them. Now. The word now was not louder. It was more precise. It told the moment what shape to take. Daniel's eyes snapped back to Ethan. Surprise flickered. He had expected fear or anger. He had not expected trained calm. Something like recognition moved across his face, a small click inside a lock. He did not know who he was dealing with, not yet, but he knew this man had been in tense moments before and knew how to walk through them without making noise. Maya was halfway through the door when she looked at Ethan and saw that same trained calm in his eyes. She did not know his full job. He had not shared the details. He had only shared his values. But now, in this thin slice of time, she understood something more. His calm was not casual. It was chosen and practiced. It was the kind of calm you could build a bridge on. She stepped fully inside. Lila turned the lock with a soft click. Through the glass, the three of them still stood in the same small triangle of attention. The scene was not over. It was simply paused by a door. Ethan stayed where he was, close enough to protect, far enough to not crowd. Daniel stayed near the alley, his eyes still busy, his pride and fear still wrestling. A minute later, though it felt longer, Maya's phone buzzed in her hand. It was a short text from Ethan that did not break the moment. "I'm here. I've got you." She did not need more words. She typed back, "I know." Outside, the light faded another shade toward evening. The neon sign at the diner across the street buzzed on. The courier pushed his empty cart toward his van. The couple's dog decided it had seen enough and tugged them down the block. The city's rhythm resumed, but under it ran a new current. The next choice would decide which way that current turned. Maya stood by the window with Lila, breathing slow. She could feel her heartbeat in her fingers, but her mind was clear. She had kept her voice steady. She had not given up her space. She had used her plan. She was not the person she used to be. She was the person she had worked to become, present, calm, and ready to choose the next right step. Outside, Ethan measured the distance, the angle of the sidewalk, the set of Daniel's shoulders, the line of the jacket, the path to the corner, the time it would take help to arrive if help was needed. He said one more sentence, soft and firm, to the man who had once been part of Maya's life. "Let's end this well," he said. "Walk away." And in that quiet, just before the next action, the city held its breath. For a breath, everything stood still. The city kept moving. Buses sighed, a bike bell rang, a neon sign buzzed on across the street, but around the studio door there was a quiet circle, like the eye of a storm. Maya stood just inside the glass with Lila beside her. Ethan stood on the sidewalk, a steady line between Maya and Daniel. Daniel hovered near the alley, shoulders tight, eyes jumpy, pride and confusion fighting across his face. Then the moment changed shape. Daniel's hand moved in a quick, tight motion. A metal shape flashed into view. He drew a handgun and brought it up, not wildly, not with a shout, but with a small, sharp decision that snapped the air. The barrel rose toward Maya through the glass. The world narrowed to a few simple facts: a weapon, a line of aim, the space between people, the breath in a chest. Maya felt time slow, not in a movie way, but in the way the mind protects itself: fewer frames, clearer edges. She did not scream. She did not run. Her training was simple: breathe, notice, choose. She breathed in and felt the studio floor under her shoes. She noticed Lila's hand near the lock. She chose to move 2 steps sideways behind a thick display shelf by the window. It was not perfect cover, but it was a wiser place to stand. Her phone was in her hand already. Her thumb found the emergency number and pressed. She spoke in a steady whisper, "This is Maya. There's a man outside my workplace with a gun. We're at," she gave the street name and number. "He is pointing it at the door. My friend and I are inside. A man is with us outside. He is calm and trying to help." On the sidewalk, Ethan did not look away from Daniel's hands. His own hands stayed open and visible at his sides. He placed his body half-turned, the way a shield might stand strong, but not a wall. His voice came out low and even, like a line on a map. "Daniel, look at me," he said. "Lower the weapon. Step back." Daniel flinched at his name spoken like that, clear, not angry. His eyes bounced from Ethan to the glass and back again. His voice was thin, made of too many feelings at once. "She made me the villain," he said. The barrel wavered and found Maya again through the window. "She tells people stories. I want to talk to her." "You can still make a good choice," Ethan said, tone unchanged. "Lower the weapon. Step back. We can talk when everyone is safe." From the alley mouth, a delivery van's engine ticked as it cooled. Down the block, the couple with the small dog moved farther away but stayed in sight, phones out, eyes wide. Inside the studio, Lila kept her voice soft and clear to the emergency operator, repeating details in simple words: "Yes, a dark jacket, faded jeans, a black cap. The weapon is out. He's pointing toward the door. No shots. My friend is behind a display. Another man is outside, very calm, speaking to him. Please send help." Ethan shifted one step to his left. It was not a show of force, it was geometry. He adjusted the angle so the glass door, the line of aim, and his own position made a safer shape. His eyes never left the weapon. "Daniel," he said, and then he did something he had not wanted to do before this moment. He reached slowly with two fingers to the inside of his jacket and brought out his badge. He held it high enough for Daniel and passers-by to see, but low enough not to startle anyone in the windows. His voice carried the words in a simple way, no drama, just truth. "I'm a federal agent. My name is Ethan Cole. Put the weapon down." The word agent seemed to press a finger on the pause button in Daniel's mind. His face shifted from anger to shock, then to calculation. The barrel dipped an inch, then twitched back up as his pride tried to save face. "You," he said, as if the idea did not fit the picture he had drawn in his head. "You're just—" He didn't finish the sentence, because the badge was still there, steady, and Ethan's eyes were steady too. Maya heard the word through the glass and felt something like a click inside her, the sound of a puzzle piece settling where it belongs. She had known Ethan was measured and trained. She had not needed to know more. But now the detail, spoken so plainly, did something good to her fear. It met it with a fact. She pressed the phone closer and told the operator, "The man with me is a federal agent. He has identified himself. He is trying to de-escalate." "Stay on the line," the operator said. "Officers are en route." Outside, Ethan kept the moment small with simple lines. "Daniel, we can stop this now," he said. "Take your finger off the trigger. Point the weapon at the ground. Set it down. Step back. Keep your hands up where I can see them." He did not say more than needed. He did not add heat. He did not rush the words. He let them be solid stones, one by one, laid across a fast stream. Daniel's jaw worked. His hand shook a little, the movement traveling like a ripple from shoulder to barrel. The weapon did not look powerful in that moment, it looked like a heavy object he did not know how to put down without losing something he thought he had left: control, pride, a story where he was not the one at fault. His mouth twisted. "You think saying lines makes you the boss," he said. But his voice had lost some of its edge. The badge had changed the math. "Safety is the boss," Ethan said, not moving. "Let safety lead." Down the block, a siren began as a faint hum, at first easy to ignore, then growing, then close enough to taste like metal on the air. A shop owner across the street locked her door and turned the sign to closed, then stepped back and watched from behind the counter. The courier edged his empty cart behind his van and peered over it like a barricade. The dog down the block made a small sound and its people shushed it gently. Ethan spoke again, still calm. "Daniel, you know what happens next if you keep that weapon pointed at anyone. You know the procedures. You know the paperwork. You know the weight of this." He did not name Daniel's job. He did not need to. The truth hung there like a street light coming on, soft but clear. For a moment, A memory crossed Daniel's face, maybe a training room, maybe a classroom where a younger version of himself had read the rules and promised to follow them. The barrel sagged another inch. The hand trembled. He clenched his jaw and lifted it again, as if his pride kept pulling on a rope tied to the worst choice. "She left me like I was nothing," he said, not to Ethan, not even to Maya really, but to the picture of himself he carried in his head. "People leave when they feel small," Ethan said, voice still even. "This is your chance to be big in the right way. Put the weapon down. Step back." Maya felt her breath move in and out like a metronome. She kept the operator updated in short sentences. "He's listening. The agent is speaking. The man looks torn. The sirens are closer." She placed her free hand on the edge of the display shelf and felt the texture of the wood. The simple feel of it helped. She counted a slow 5 with each breath. She had practiced this and it served her now. Lila stood with her, one hand on Maya's shoulder, a steady touch that said, "I'm here." Her other hand held the phone to her ear. Her notes were clear. Black cap. Dark jacket. About 6 feet. Caucasian. He seems conflicted. The agent is focused. No one is yelling. No shots. Her voice did not shake. She had decided she would be useful, and that decision held her up. On the sidewalk, Ethan widened his stance by a small measure to root himself and to create a safer line with the glass door. He kept his badge visible. He did not match Daniel's emotions. He gave the scene a different rhythm to follow. "Look at me, Daniel," he said. "Not at the door. Not at your picture of how this should have gone. Look at this moment. You can end it in the best way available." The sirens were near now, a layered sound, one closer, one farther, another rounding a corner. Daniel heard them and flinched. A rush of fear moved across his face. "They'll ruin me," he said, more to himself than to anyone else. The weapon dipped again, then jerked back up half a degree, like a fish tugging against a line. "You can help yourself," Ethan said. "You can help her. You can help the officers coming. Put it down and step back. Show your hands. Breathe." He did not make promises about outcomes he could not control. He offered only the next right step. For a heartbeat, Daniel's eyes met Maya's through the glass. She did not look away. She did not give him anger or softness. She gave him the truth of her face, which was calm and firm and done. He saw it. Something in his shoulders sagged. He blinked, a slow blink, the kind people do when their minds make a turn. His hand began to lower. The barrel moved like the minute hand of a clock, slow, deliberate, down toward the pavement. Ethan acknowledged the movement with a tiny nod, not big enough to break the spell, just big enough to say, "Yes, keep going." He added words to match it, "Good. Lower. Keep lowering. Now place it on the ground. Fingers open. Step back. Hands up." The sirens were loud now, bouncing off the glass and brick, making the scene feel bright and public. Blue and red washed the storefronts at the far end of the block as the first patrol vehicle turned onto the street. The couple with the dog stepped farther back. The shop owner across the street crouched behind the counter but kept watching. The courier peeked around his van door, eyes like full moons. Daniel's face twisted as the pride in him made one more try. His grip tightened, and for a small second the barrel twitched upward again, not in a plan, just in a reflex born of fear. Ethan did not mirror the twitch. His voice stepped in the space where panic wanted to live. "Keep lowering," he said, a little firmer, but still even. "You're doing it. Don't reverse. Place it down." A beat. Another beat. The metal touched the concrete with a small, clear sound that Maya would remember for a long time, not because it was loud, but because it marked a line crossed in the right direction. Daniel's hand hovered over it, fingers still holding a last thread. Ethan gave him the next stone to step on. "Let go," he said. "Step back. Hands up." Daniel's fingers opened. He stepped back a pace, then another, still staring at the weapon like it might somehow pull him back to it if he blinked. His hands lifted, palms out, as if surrender were a language he vaguely remembered from long ago. The sirens washed the block. The first patrol car rolled to a stop with care, not screeching, not adding chaos. Doors opened. Voices came, trained and clear, joining Ethan's rhythm. "Hands up," someone called from behind the cruiser door. "Keep facing forward. Do not move." Ethan did not turn to look, he had no need to. He stayed with Daniel's eyes, kept them here, kept the line. "Stay with me," he said softly. "You're doing fine. Keep your hands up. Keep your feet where they are." Inside the studio, Maya felt her knees loosen. She did not sit. She kept standing, kept breathing, kept telling the operator what she saw. "He put it down," she said, and heard her own voice tremble now that the hardest part had turned. "He stepped back. Officers have arrived." The operator's tone shifted into a gentle cadence people use when they know someone has just carried a heavy weight and set it down. "You did well," she said. "Stay inside until an officer comes to the door." Lila squeezed Maya's shoulder and let out a breath she had been holding. "Almost there," she whispered. "Almost over." They stood side by side and watched the shape of the moment continue to change, danger softening into procedure, fear softening into statements and steps. Outside, the street lights hummed to life. The sky turned deeper blue. A second patrol car arrived. The block filled with measured movement, not frantic, not loud, just careful. Ethan lowered his badge but kept his hands visible as he spoke, "Federal agent on scene," so the arriving officers would have the picture they needed. He did not step beyond his role. He had given the moment a safer shape, and now the shape would be held by others. For Daniel, the circle of pride and fear quieted by degrees. He stared at the weapon on the ground as if it were a decision he could not take back or a bridge that had already burned behind him. His shoulders sagged a fraction more. His hands stayed up. The sirens, now idling as engines, became background noise. The important sounds took their place, clear voices, simple commands, the gentle scrape of shoes on concrete as people followed directions. Maya closed her eyes for one count of 5 and opened them again. The display shelf felt solid under her hand. Lila was still there. The neon sign still buzzed. The city still moved. But the story had bent in a different direction than the one she had feared. It had not bent by accident. It had bent because calm had met panic, because truth had met pride, because choices had been made one small second at a time. The operator on the phone told her, "An officer will come to your door to take your statement. Are you safe?" Maya said, "Yes." It was a simple word. It carried a great weight. She looked at Ethan, who stood in the glow of patrol lights, steady as ever, and she knew that the moment had a midpoint, and they had just crossed it. What came next would be hard in a different way: reports, questions, long forms, long looks backward, but right now, the important part was done. The worst choice had not won. On the sidewalk, the first arriving officer's voice rose clear. "Sir, keep your hands up. We're going to approach. Do not move." The scene continued without drama, each person playing a part in a process built to bring heat down. And in the studio, behind the glass that had separated danger from shelter, Maya let herself take one long breath that felt like the first honest breath of a new hour. Red and blue lights painted the storefronts like slow waves. The first patrol car idled with a steady hum. 2 officers moved with practiced care, speaking in clear, even voices. They did not shout. They did not rush. They followed a rhythm that helped the moment stay small. Daniel stood with his hands up, the gun on the ground by his shoes. His face looked tired in the colored light, as if the last few minutes had been hours. Ethan kept his stance and his calm. He said, "Federal agent on scene, again," for the approaching officers. He did not take over. He did not argue about control. He simply made sure they had the facts they needed fast. One officer, a tall woman with a steady gaze, lifted her hand in a small signal. "Got it," she said. "We see the weapon." "Sir, keep your hands up. Step to your left, slow and steady." Daniel obeyed. He moved one step, then another, until he stood clear of the gun. The second officer angled closer to the weapon, eyes never leaving Daniel's hands. He knelt and slid the gun back with a shoe, then picked it up with care and cleared it in one smooth motion. The small, efficient movements felt like the answer to a hard question you have practiced many times. It was not dramatic, it was exact. Inside the studio, Maya exhaled. Lila kept the line open with the emergency operator until a third officer walked to the door and knocked gently. "Police," he said, voice polite. "You can hang up now. You're safe." Lila ended the call and unlocked the door. The officer kept his hands visible and took a small step inside. He was young but grounded, eyes kind but alert. "Are you both okay?" he asked. "Yes," Maya said. The word was small and full. Lila nodded. "We called as soon as the weapon came out," she added, giving a quick, clean summary. The officer offered them each a bottle of water from a pouch on his vest. "Sip," he said. "Your body just carried a lot. Even if you feel steady, water helps." It was practical advice. It felt like an anchor. On the sidewalk, the tall officer spoke to Daniel again, precise and calm. "Sir, keep your hands up. We're going to approach. Do not move." She and her partner closed the distance in measured steps. "Turn around. Interlace your fingers behind your head," she said. He did. "Take 2 steps back toward my voice." He did. "Kneel." He did. The partner moved in, quick and efficient, applying cuffs with no extra force, no show. The clicks were soft, like a lock on a small box. Ethan took a step back to give space. He still watched, ready to help if asked, but the lead belonged to the responding team now. The tall officer glanced at him. "Agent, will you stick around?" she asked like it was already settled. He nodded. "Yes, ma'am." She gave a brief nod back and turned her full attention to her team. "Secure him. Move him to the curb. We'll separate people for statements." More units arrived. The block looked bright now, full of reflective vests and careful voices. The city knew how to make space around a hard moment and then return to itself. A bus rolled by slowly, riders peering through the windows with quiet faces. The shop owner across the street set her phone down at last and sank onto a stool. An older supervisor with silver hair stepped out of a car and took a quick read of the scene. He spoke to the tall officer, then to the partner who had secured the gun, then to Ethan in 3 short conversations that moved things along. "You identified yourself?" he asked Ethan. "Yes," Ethan said. "I kept him focused." The weapon was pointed at the door. He placed it down after commands. The supervisor nodded once and moved on, his presence like a metronome for the whole block. The young officer inside the studio asked Maya and Lila to sit for a moment at a side table. He kept his tone gentle. "We'll take your statements soon," he said. "Do you need medical care?" They both said no. Lila's hands shook a little now that the danger had passed, but she smiled and lifted the water bottle as if to say, "This is my medicine." The officer smiled back, then looked at Maya. "You did everything right," he said, not as a pat on the head, but as a true sentence. "Clear call, steady information, staying inside." Maya nodded and let the words settle. Her chest felt less tight. She could feel her breath go all the way down again. Through the window, she watched as Daniel sat on the curb, hands cuffed behind him, back against the car's bumper. He stared at the ground. He looked smaller there than he had when he stood in the half-shadow by the alley. Pride and fear were still on his face, but now they were quiet, like two people sitting in the back row of a room where they no longer get to speak. Ethan stepped to the studio door and caught Maya's eye. He did not push in. He lifted a hand in a small wave. She waved back. The young officer noticed the exchange. "You know him?" he asked. "He's my boyfriend," Maya said. The officer's eyebrows lifted a millimeter, and he glanced at Ethan again with new understanding. He kept the moment calm, the officer said. That helped a lot. The supervisor walked over to Daniel with another officer and crouched to meet his eyes. He did not scold. He did not preach. He spoke like a person who has seen many hard turns and knows the road after them. "You're going to be treated with respect here," he said. "You need to do your part. Stay still. Answer basic questions. Let the process work." Daniel nodded once, a small, stiff nod, as if his neck did not want to help but did anyway. The supervisor stood and signaled for a unit to transport when ready. A separate officer, a woman with a notebook and a patient face, came into the studio to take initial statements. She set her notebook down, clicked a pen, and spoke in a way that made it easy to answer. "Start with your names and contact information," she said. "Then tell me what you saw in simple order. You can speak in short sentences. I'll ask follow ups if needed." Lila went first. She listed times, colors, small facts that stood out. Maya went next. She spoke slowly. "He was waiting by the wall. He said my name. I asked him to leave. He pulled a gun. I moved behind the display, called, stayed on the line. Ethan spoke to him. Ethan showed a badge. He told him to put the weapon down. He did." The officer nodded. "You're doing well," she said. "Thank you for being clear." She asked a few more questions that were not hard to answer: the distance between people, whether there were other threats, whether any words suggested he wanted to harm anyone. Maya answered what she could and said I don't know when she did not. The officer seemed to like that answer more than guesses. "That's good," she said. "We want only what you saw and heard." Outside, the tall officer briefed the supervisor on the weapon. "Cleared and safe," she said. "We'll log it and tag it." The process moved like a careful line of steps through a room: collect, record, confirm, move on. No one hurried. No one dragged time either. The rhythm itself felt like protection. A bystander, the courier, walked up to an officer and said he had video from across the van. He had hit record when he saw the gun come out. The officer thanked him and asked him to wait so they could take his information and copy the footage. The couple with the small dog had also filmed short clips. They stayed nearby, lending quiet faces to the account, not asking for attention, just offering what they had. The block, which had been a cluster of strangers an hour ago, now felt like a small, temporary team. Another small detail arrived with usefulness. Mr. Han from Maya's building walked up the sidewalk, oranges still in his bag. He had taken a longer route home when he saw the lights. He approached gently, caught Maya's eye through the glass, and tapped his pocket. She nodded, understanding. He had door camera clips from the nights when the dark sedan waited outside. He offered to send them to the officer with the notebook. "Thank you," she said through the open door. "That helps." He patted the bag and said, "Oranges help too," and placed two on the table like a tiny ceremony. The officer smiled at that, and for a second the room felt human and warm again. The supervisor spoke with Ethan by the curb. "Walk me through your first contact," he said. Ethan did, clean and concise. He used simple words and did not add color. I used his name. I gave clear commands. I identified myself. I kept my hands visible. I asked the victim to move to safer cover. I encouraged step down steps, finger off trigger, barrel down, weapon on ground, step back, hands up. The supervisor nodded. Appreciate the clarity, he said. We'll get your formal statement, but this helps with the timeline. Daniel sat very still. He did not look left or right. He watched his own shoes like they might offer a way to undo time. Two younger officers stood nearby, not looming, simply present. One of them shifted his weight and looked at the sky. The sky was a clean, deep blue now. The day had crossed into full evening. A unit with a calm, experienced officer arrived to speak directly with Maya when the initial notes were done. She introduced herself with her first name and a short sentence that made trust easy. I work with cases where safety at home or work has been shaken, she said. I don't push, I just explain options. Her voice was like a soft lamp in a quiet room. She told Maya about steps she could take next, a follow-up contact for support, how to note any future attempts to reach her, how documentation helps, how the system moves. She did not fill the room with rules. She offered a path. Maya listened. She took a card. She asked 2 practical questions and got 2 practical answers. The officer did not say, "You must." She said, "Here's how, and here's who, and here's when." That made all the difference. The future looked like steps, not fog. Ethan finally stepped inside the studio when invited by the officer with the notebook. He kept his tone as calm as it had been outside. He did not turn the story into a stage. He simply gave facts and then looked to Maya as if asking, "Do you want tea later?" with his eyes. She almost laughed at that. The normal thought tea felt like a gift. The transport unit took Daniel after the paperwork at the curb. He rose when asked, stood when guided, and got into the back seat without a word. The door closed with a soft thump. The lights did not flash as the car pulled away. It moved through the block in a careful line and turned the corner, fading into the traffic like any other car, except that its quiet carried a whole story inside. The supervisor thanked the studio for their patience and told the team they could finish statements at the station or schedule follow-up calls. "We know you've had a long evening," he said, voice respectful. "We try to keep it as smooth as possible." He spoke with Lila a moment about closing and locking up. He spoke with Maya about support services and contact points. He spoke with Ethan about next steps for his report. He did all of this without rushing, then let the evening settle back into its own pace. When the last unit left, the street looked like itself again, only a little brighter for a while because of the memory of the lights. The neon sign across the street buzzed along. The bus stop held 2 people staring at their phones, catching up on messages. The courier waved once and drove away. Mr. Han carried his oranges upstairs. The couple with the small dog disappeared around the corner, the dog trotting like a small drum beat in the night. Inside the studio, the air felt heavier and lighter at once. Heavier from what it had held. Lighter from what it had released. Lila locked the door, then turned to Maya and pulled her into a soft hug. They did not say much. "You were steady," Lila whispered. "You too," Maya said. They stood like that for a breath, then stepped back and wiped their eyes with the same small, embarrassed laugh people use when relief finally arrives. Ethan stayed near the window, giving them space. When Maya looked up, he met her eyes. He did not ask, "Are you okay?" in a way that demands a big answer. He asked with a look that said, "I'm here for as much or as little as you want to say." She nodded, a small nod that meant, "Stay close." They closed the studio slowly, checking the lights and the locks with extra care that felt right rather than fearful. Outside, the air had cooled. Ethan walked Maya to his car, opened the door, and waited until she settled. He did not talk much as they pulled away. He let the quiet be clean. After 2 blocks, he said one sentence that matched the whole evening. "You did everything right," he said. "You kept your ground. You chose calm." Maya looked at the city passing by and felt a deep tiredness that was not weakness. It was the body's honest way of saying, "We worked hard." She rested her head against the seat and watched light smear into soft lines. She did not know what the next days would ask. She knew paperwork and questions would come. She knew her past had knocked on her door and she had not opened it. She knew she had people who would stand with her in the doorway and help her hold it closed. Back at her building, Mr. Hand's door was cracked. He waved from the hall, eyebrows lifted in a question that did not need words. "All right," Maya said, lifting a thumb. He nodded and lifted an orange like a toast, then shut his door with a gentle click. Ethan walked her upstairs. Inside her apartment, she put the oranges in the bowl again. The basil plant by the window stood small and brave. She touched a leaf and felt the day's sharpness ease 1 more degree. Ethan poured water into 2 glasses and set them on the table. "You want a moment alone?" he asked. "Or want me to sit right here and say nothing?" She smiled. "Sit right there," she said. "Say nothing for a minute." He did. The quiet was not empty. It was full of safety. The night wrapped around the city. Somewhere, a radio played a soft song. Somewhere, a bus sighed. In this small place, Maya felt the simplest truth of the day settle in her chest: danger had come close, and she had stayed herself. Calm had met anger and held firm. Choices had been offered and taken. The worst had been avoided, not by luck, but by steady steps and voices that refused to add heat. She breathed in. She breathed out. The next part of the story would be about healing, and she was ready to begin it. The night was quiet after the lights and the voices and the long, careful steps. In Maya's apartment, the lamp on the table made a small circle of warm light. Ethan sat in the chair by the window, not talking, just being there. Maya felt the tiredness spread through her like warm sand. It was not the kind of tired that knocks you down. It was the kind that tells you, you carried a lot, and you can put it down now. She washed her face, changed into soft clothes, and stood for a moment by the basil plant. She touched a leaf and whispered, "We made it through." The leaf smelled clean and green, and that was enough to make her breathe deeper. They made tea and talked only in small pieces. She told him one memory that had tried to rise during the evening and how she had pushed it back with her new habits. He told her that her voice on the phone to the operator had been steady, and that steadiness helped shape the scene. They did not go over every detail. They agreed that the night belonged to rest. Before sleep, she texted Lila, "Home safe. Thank you for everything." Lila's reply came fast, "Always." Mr. Han sent a thumbs up emoji and a picture of 2 oranges on a plate, as if to say, the street is calm again. Morning came in soft layers: light on the wall, a kettle, the city waking. For a few seconds, Maya did not remember the hard part of the day before. Then she did, and the memory did not crush her. It was a stone, but she had strong feet. She set her cup on the balcony and watched the roofs. A small bird landed on the railing, looked at her like a curious neighbor, and flew away. She smiled at the small, ordinary brave thing that a morning is. Her phone buzzed with 2 messages. The first was from a detective who thanked her for her clear report and said a follow-up would happen the next day. The second was from a victim advocate the supervisor had mentioned. The message was simple: "I'm here to explain options and answer questions. No pressure." Maya liked the phrase "no pressure." She replied and set a time to talk. At work, the studio felt like a soft room again. Lila met her at the door with a hug that was not too tight and not too long. "Tea?" Lila asked. "Yes, Maya said. They made tea and sat for 5 minutes without opening their laptops. The owner came by and said, "Take what time you need, and if you need to step away for calls, I'll cover." He meant it. He moved a stack of sample books onto his own desk like a quiet promise. The day was not normal, but it was gentle. Maya worked on a warm color palette for the preschool mural and checked 3 typographic layouts. In between, she answered a call from the advocate. The woman's voice was calm and kind. She explained how documentation helps, how boundaries can be formalized, how safety planning works at work and at home. She spoke in small steps and did not rush. "You choose what you want," she said. "You can decide today or later. We're here either way." Maya wrote down the steps as if she were sketching a simple map. The lines were clear and the path made sense. Around noon, the bakery owner sent a photo of the new pastry sticker with Maya's cheerful icon. The message said, "Customers already smile when they see it." Maya smiled too. She and Lila walked over to the bakery for lunch. The street felt different but not scary. They ate soup and split a sandwich and watched people carry on with their lives, a dad with a stroller, 2 friends arguing gently about the best bus route, a woman in a bright scarf telling a story with her hands. Not everyone knew what had happened on this block the night before. That felt right. The world did not need to hold her story for her. She could hold it herself. In the afternoon, Mr. Han knocked on the studio door with a small drive in a paper envelope. "The clips," he said. "From the late nights." Maya thanked him and introduced him to the young officer who had come by to collect bystander material. Mr. Han nodded with calm pride and left 2 more oranges on the table, as if good citrus could keep a place safe. Maybe it could. The officer smiled and took the envelope with care. Later that day, the detective called back and spoke clearly about next steps. There would be an internal review at Daniel's department. There would be a formal process for the incident itself. Maya would give a longer statement at a scheduled time. She could also speak to someone who would help with a protective order, if she wanted to take that step. "You can think about it," the detective said. "You're not alone in this." The words landed like soft weights that hold paper in place on a windy table. When she hung up, Maya looked out at the street and felt 2 feelings at once, relief and a quiet sadness. Relief because the night had ended without harm. Sadness because a person she once knew was sitting in a room somewhere, facing hard consequences. She did not want to carry his choices. She did not want to fix them. She also did not want to become hard inside. She chose a simple, private sentence and said it in her head: "I release what is not mine, and I take care of what is." That evening, Ethan picked her up and they walked in a small park nearby. They did not talk about the case details. He told her about a book his grandmother used to keep on a low shelf, pressed leaves between pages, each labeled with the date and place. She said keeping gentle records helps you remember that time has texture, he said. When a hard day comes, you can touch the leaves and know it will change. Maya liked that. She wondered what pressed leaves she could keep from this time that would help later. She thought of the sound the gun made when it touched the concrete, the way the officer handed them water, the oranges on the table, the small nod Ethan gave Daniel when the barrel lowered. These were not just sounds and gestures. They were proof that calm choices exist even in heated moments. They sat on a bench and watched a child try to fly a small paper kite that would not stay up. The child laughed anyway and kept running. The grown-up with the child ran too, not to fix it, but to share the try. Maya leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder. "I don't want this night to define me," she said. "I want the way we handled it to define me." He turned his head slightly so his cheek touched her hair. "It already does," he said. Over the next week, life became a line of steady steps. Maya met with the advocate and chose to file for a protective order. The paperwork was long but clear. A kind clerk helped her fill in exact dates and small details. Lila went with her and brought snacks, and they celebrated by buying clay tools on the way back. They enrolled in the Saturday pottery class. On the first day, the instructor said, "If your bowl collapses, that's good. It means you were brave with the clay." Maya laughed and let her first bowl be thick and honest. She pressed her thumb into the rim and made a small mark that looked like a crescent moon. She decided to keep that mark on all her bowls. It could be her sign that says, "This was made by a steady hand." At the studio, small kindnesses kept arriving. The preschool sent a thank you drawing of a big sun with lines shooting out in every direction. The bakery set a little card by the register with her icon and the words designed by Maya, and customers sometimes asked who she was. "She's the one with the calm smile," Lila would say, which made Maya roll her eyes and smile at the same time. One evening, after a long day of normal work, they went back to the diner with the buzzing neon sign. The server recognized them and said, "It's been quieter around here lately." Maya felt the truth of that. The place on the sidewalk where a hard choice had been made now looked like any other square of concrete. She thought of how a street holds many stories at once and carries them forward without shouting. Ethan was careful not to step into the center of her story. He walked beside her, not in front of her. He checked in with simple sentences: "How's your breath today? Want me to wait by the door while you talk to the advocate? Want silence or a bad joke?" She chose bad jokes sometimes and was grateful for the silly ones. He made a promise and kept it: he would share more about his work, not the cases, but the values. He told her how teams practice lowering heat, how they learn to speak in steady rhythms, how they write reports as acts of care for the truth. She listened and felt the shape of his life more clearly. It did not make her feel small. It made her feel invited to walk with someone who respects the weight of things. A letter arrived from the department that had employed Daniel. It was short and professional. It said the incident was under review, that he was on leave, and that the process would proceed according to policy. It did not ask her to carry any part of his path. It only informed her. She felt a mix of things again and let them pass through without getting stuck. She was not a judge. She was a person who had chosen safety and truth. That was enough. On a quiet Sunday, she cleaned her apartment and put fresh water in a jar with 2 small flowers. She wrote a few lines on a card and taped it inside the kitchen cabinet where she would see it each morning: "I choose calm even when fear knocks. I ask for help and accept it. I keep records, not to relieve pain, but to measure healing. I grow what I water. I am not defined by someone else's storm." She closed the cabinet and felt the words waiting there like friendly tools in a drawer. There were still hard moments. Some nights, a car door closing on the street below made her body tense. One afternoon, a stranger's laugh had the same rough edge as a voice she remembered, and she had to step into the studio's back room to breathe. But each time, the path back was quicker. She used her stones: breathe, notice, choose, share. She texted Ethan a leaf emoji when she was okay. He sent back a cup or a star or a small moon. The symbols became their kind of shorthand for "you're not alone." Pottery class became a gentle anchor. Her second bowl was better. Her third one was still lopsided, but she liked it more than the second because the rim caught light in a kind way. She picked a glaze called Calm Blue and laughed when the color swatch looked exactly like the mural palette she had chosen for the preschool. "You have a type," Lila teased. "Peace-colored." They planned to give the first bowls to people who had carried them through the long night: one for Mr. Hahn, one for the studio owner, one for the young officer who had handed them water. "We'll write a note," Lila said. "Thank you for steady hands." Maya nodded. It felt right to give shape to gratitude you can hold. On a weekday evening, the bakery put up the new menu with her layout. A child pressed a finger to the pastry icon and said, "Look, it's smiling." The parent laughed. "Just like you," they said to the child. Maya watched from the door and felt something lift inside her. Her work was out in the world doing a small job, helping someone choose a sweet and smile. That was a kind of safety too, the safety of useful things. Weeks later, on a morning that smelled like rain before it falls, Maya stood on her balcony again with her tea. The basil plant had grown new leaves. The city moved in its honest way. Delivery trucks, a dog with a serious job, a runner whose shoes made a soft beat on the sidewalk. Her phone buzzed with a calendar reminder for a follow-up call, and she answered it with calm. After the call, she wrote in a small notebook she kept by the window. She did not write about the incident. She wrote about the things that made the day feel healthy, a neighbor's wave, a color she liked for a logo, a sentence from a book, the way clay feels cool before it warms under your hand. Ethan joined her with 2 cups. He did not ask if she was okay every hour anymore. He did not need to. He could see it. She was not just okay. She was building good days. Pottery after work, he asked. Yes, she said. And then we can cook something simple. He smiled. Something with basil, he said, looking at the plant. Always, she said. Before they left for the day, she opened the cabinet and read the 5 lines again. They did not feel like rules. They felt like gentle rails on a bridge she was already crossing. She closed the door and picked up her tote. The city did not promise that nothing hard would ever happen again. It promised movement, and she had learned how to move with it. She locked her door, checked once, smiled at herself for checking only once, and stepped into the hall. In the lobby, Mr. Han held the door for her. The oranges were good, he asked. Very, she said. I have something for you soon. He looked pleased. I will make room on my shelf, he said, as if he already knew a small bowl was coming to sit beside his radio. Outside, the air was cool and friendly. The diner's neon sign buzzed, even in daylight, like a reliable friend who shows up early. The bus sighed. The day stretched in front of her, made of work and kindness and clay and tea. Her past had tried to take the shape of her life again, but she had chosen a new shape and held it with steady hands. Healing did not arrive in a single moment. It arrived as a habit she practiced, a path she walked, a bowl she shaped, a line she wrote, a leaf she pressed between pages. She looked down the street and saw Ethan waiting by the car, not in a rush, giving her the gift of time as always. She walked toward him, not to be saved, but to be met. And the city, wide and ordinary and brave, moved with her into a day she could call her own.